Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson. This is Jectives News, and today I have three main stories for you. Number one, Cash App released its brand guidelines for the public, so we can check that out. I have three brand new fonts for you, and lastly, we're going to take a look at some hotly debated California street signs. Our lead story today is going to be the Cash App brand guidelines that was recently posted online, and as you can see here, we've got this full screen web page, and they said it couldn't be done. Diagonal scrolling. When I saw this, I was like, why are people excited about this? This is ridiculous. And you can click on the different icons or different brand assets and stuff like that, and you can kind of go through them and look at them. Like you can scroll through like this. I guess if maybe you were on a tablet or something, you could swipe through. Luckily, this isn't actually what we're going to look at. This is cool to kind of see some of the brand assets. Oh, look, you can kind of draw too. But this is kind of cool to look at some of the brand assets in general. But what we're going to look at is this up here, the resources. Nope, the design foundations. So we are mostly interested in typography adjectives. So we're going to look at the typography, but I do think anytime a brand posts their guidelines online, especially if it's a brand that you're excited about, or maybe if you're not, it's always worth checking out. So we're going to look at the typography on here, and you can see what they've got going on. They've got their cache sans, I think they're calling it. Yeah. So their cache sans, and they've got the designers right here. Actually, at the bottom, let me go ahead and cut to the bottom. At the bottom, they do have resources here where you can download cache sans wide, and cache sans mono, and you can also get the web fonts for these. I do not believe that these are actually available. It's not like an open font license or anything like that. I think that they're just here for partners, for people who work at Cash App. So don't use these unless you're certain you've looked at the license and everything like that, because from what I looked at, in FontForge, these licenses are specifically licensed to Cash App, as far as I can tell. But you can scroll through, and they got some nice animations and things like that going on. But it's just kind of a nice presentation of the typography, and it shows how they use it. Here's the everyday usage, and you can scroll through this, and you can look at how the font is applied in their real world examples. Expressive usage. This is something you'll see if you go into some of the other sections where they talk about the brand voice and things like that. One of the defining characteristics of Cash App is that it should be expressive. So you've got these different ways to use it. They're just giving some examples. They've got some novelty uses and things like that, but it says these are for opportune moments. So this isn't something that the designer should be doing on a daily basis. It's just kind of like, here are some special cases, but typically people are using cache sans. And then down here, you can see cache sans mono. So they've got it written out. It says technical data or tertiary information can be used small in mono. So nobody's going to be using mono, the mono spaced font, cache sans mono, for much else, but it is nice that they do have it. It's nice to have a monospaced font. It's nice to have those the ability to add those little details and do it consistently. So just talking about tracking, kerning, making sure their font looks good, their typeface looks good. Since it's Cash App, they do have, they're dealing with finance. They need to make sure their numbers are going to work well for finance. So they did a great job here. They've got fractions that can be turned on or off. Obviously, on is going to look nicer in text. And then right here, you can see this X. You can have it be the actual multiplication symbol. Sometimes you can run into fonts that don't have multiplication signal. They don't have fractions. Obviously, for a financial institution, it's going to be very important that that is the case. Here, you've got tabular numbers and proportional numbers. Proportional numbers are going to look great in a body of text, whereas tabular numbers are going to be what you want in a spreadsheet so that your numbers will line up. So you can look at like a column of numbers and they're all going to line up. Cache mono, they're talking about here ambiguous letter forms. So Cash Mono, if you're using Cash Sans, look at this. The I, the L, the 1, they're just a straight line, you know. That's one of the downfalls, or one of the bad parts about using a sans serif. Their Cash Mono here, though, it's got very distinctive, I would say moderately distinctive letter forms. The I looks pretty distinctive, but like, what's the difference between the 1 and the L here? So this is what they're talking about here. They've got ambiguous letter forms. But this looks like maybe they've got some alternatives. Sure, so they have some alternatives. So you've got a very distinctive one here. This is the tabular 1. And you've got a /0, so that's going to help them out a little bit too. One of the most important things of any brand guideline is going to be the wrong way to use things. And you can never 100% prepare for all of the things that someone might do to a brand that you design, but this does help mitigate some of it. So, you know, they're saying don't do these very specific things. But yeah, I do think that you can go through this on your own time. I'm not going to go through all of the logos and the colors and things like that, but you can see it's pretty intensive. I will just show the motion stuff because I think they do a great job with the motion. And there's some really, really cool brand assets or brand, you know, tokens and just different ways that they're treating the Cash Brand app. And I think they've done a great job. One of, you know, creating all of this, making it feel very cohesive, but 2, releasing it to the public. I think it's always cool when you can look at this stuff as a designer or a student, or even as the competition. You know, Cash App, obviously they're going to have some competition. It's cool to just be able to look at this stuff, and you have to be very confident in your branding if you're going to put out these types of assets for everybody to look through. So that is the Cash App brand guidelines that has been released to the public. I think it's really cool. I think it's worth looking through, and I will have it linked in the description. Our first brand new font this week is Magik Wanda by Martha Sue Corsi. It's being released on Future Fonts. I first came across this on Martha Sue's Blue Sky. There she is right there. And you can see that she has been promoting this, and I will go ahead and go into more detail about the font itself, but I thought I'd give her Blue Sky a shout out because that's where I first came across the new typeface. Back on Future Fonts here, and we can see that Magik Wanda was inspired by a few different things. Martha lists the Vienna Secession. She says Wanda Gag. I might be mispronouncing that, but Wanda Gag, her illustration style is an entire rabbit hole to dive down on its own. And then lastly, Martha's signature style. You may have picked up on this, and she does note this right here, but this was hand lettered with a speedball pen, and we can just kind of go through these right here. Some of these type specimens. You can really see the Vienna Secession inspiration here. But look at that. Some nice ligatures. This isn't a fully fleshed out font yet. It does have all of the, you know, the very basics for the Latin alphabet, but it is missing the extended alphabet and, you know, all the extra bells and whistles and things like that you would expect from a very large font family. But I do think that it's a beautiful font just to get out the gate with. You can see right here, it's priced at $30, very reasonable. And it seems to be a very, very well-crafted font. I think that it's difficult to make a typeface that seems elegant and cozy at the exact same time. But I really do think that Martha Sue pulled it off with this one. Just going to get through all of the type specimens to give you a full look at what we're working with. Oh, I love that one. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom so you can see what extra is going to be included. So this is, if you're not familiar with Future Fonts, different foundries or individuals will release their typefaces on Future Fonts, and they'll be labeled up here at top. So it says version 0.1, and it'll say in progress. So this is a font that if you purchase it, you will receive updates when they come out. But if you're someone that needs the extended Latin, you know, I'd sit on this a little bit and make sure that it's going to be exactly what you want later on. But you can see here, it's our first draft of this, and here are the things that are coming in the future. So more ligatures, that's awesome. extended Latin. I think a lot of people will be happy about that. And then italics. I'm really excited to see what the italics are going to look like with this one, because this is a very nice looking font right out the gate. But to see this sort of elegant style be turned into italics, I think is going to be really cool. So check out Magic Wanda by Martha Sue on Future Fonts. Our second brand new font today is Hotline. Hotline Script by Set Sail Studios. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we can take a better look at this. This typeface really is kind of one of those what you see is what you get situations that you see sometimes with display fonts, but I think this is an excellent one. And I chose this one for today because I particularly love the type specimens. Sometimes a typeface just doesn't sing until you see a type specimen. And look at this retro, this 1980s cell phone, or this might even be like a landline phone, but I just think this is an excellent type specimen. And they really stick to the theme here. We've got a cassette, Dreamscape on there, got Heartbreaker's jacket. I think it's really cool that you can look at this, because you could look at this and you see it as just kind of like a, you know, like a pen, right? Like somebody scratched this out with kind of a bleeding pen, but throw it in 3D and you've got some kind of liquid. The cocktails, don't love these as much, but they still do look nice. Miami Drift, I feel like this one really works out well. And I think this is the situation where a typeface like Hotline really is going to sing the most. It does have alternates for every single letter, so you've got at least 2 full uppercase, 2 full lowercase. You've got a lot of great swashes at the end here, and you've got a handful of ligatures. Got your basics down here, but like I said, what you see is what you get. Everything on this screen is what's included with the typeface, and you're not going to want to typeset a ton of different things in this. Even if we look at Heartbreaker here, you're going to see, since there's only 2 different types of E's, you got 3 E's in Heartbreaker. You got to choose 2 of them that are going to look exactly the same, and that kind of ruins the effect. So I would think about what you're going to use this for before you actually purchase it. Not that it's incredibly expensive or anything. You know, you're sitting at $18 for a pretty nice display font. But if you know that you're going to want to use this for more than just a single word or a couple of words, I would maybe think about another option. But definitely type it out and see if you're going to have more than 2 of the same letter in the word. And then you'll know if it's going to look especially great or not. Because when you've got things like this, Miami Drift, it looks amazing. When you've got the Hotline right here, I think this looks amazing. I didn't download this, so I'm not sure how the kerning tables and stuff like that are going to work out. But for 18 bucks, I think that it's worth looking at. If you need this aesthetic, I think this looks great. Hotline is available on a few different font marketplaces, but you can definitely buy it directly from Set Sail Studios at setsailstudios.com. Our third brand new font today is Base Pixel. This was designed by Clement Cases for Base. That's going to be at base.org. And as far as I can tell, I'm not a blockchain expert. This font basically just exists to be minted on Base, which is Coinbase's blockchain network. And let me go ahead and play around with this a little here. So you can see this is a variable font. And what the idea with Base Pixel is that you've got one of your, oh gosh, I can't think of what it's called now. One of the options to change the font, rather than changing the weight, you change how much it degrades itself. So there's a little bit of a description here, but I think we're most interested in looking at what the font's gonna look like. So you've got high, reduced, medium, low, and trash. And these are the 5 weights that they've really designed well. Or I guess you could say like intentionally designed these. The variable nature of it does flow between the 5, and you can see that they clearly degrade from high to trash. But my critique of this font, what I think people might have a problem with, is that those in-between weights don't really work very well. You can see there's some ugly stuff going on here. And maybe that's what you're into. I mean, I could definitely see this being animated and things like that. You know, they've done a pretty good job of animating it here. Let's go ahead and hit play. Those are just kind of clicking through the different ones. But they've animated it a little bit in some places. It's a cool concept. I'm not gonna say anything bad about this because I do think that it's an incredible idea. I don't know if it's an original idea, to be honest. I've never seen this done before. People are doing some really, really cool stuff with variable fonts right now. I haven't particularly seen exactly this done yet, but you can see here the variable font. They could have probably released this in 4 different size or 5 different weights, and it would have been fine. But I guess the variable nature allows you to animate it a little bit easier, and that's what they've got going on here. Just going to go ahead and show you the rest of it. You can see how everything moves here, and it would definitely take some time to figure out how to make this all work. There's definitely a lot of effort put into this, but unfortunately the typeface doesn't include a ton of characters. It includes I don't know, maybe 100 characters. It's got the uppercase, lowercase, and then a few symbols. But it's not like a full-fledged font that you're actually going to be able to use for branding or anything like that. Despite the fact that I think some of these variations, you know, particularly high, reduced, and medium, they look pretty cool. I could see working with those in a larger scale, but you're not going to be doing that with base pixel unless this ends up getting expanded, which I don't think is going to be the case, because if you go on Coinbase, you can see that you can only mint this font, this typeface, for the next 60 days, which presumably means that that's the way to get it. I mean, that's kind of the value of these blockchain things, right? Is that they're supposed to be rare. I'm not going to confirm or deny whether this is possible, but a lot of times when there's a web font, you can just kind of go into the source code and grab the variable font and look at it there. So it's not impossible to get this font right now, which means that it's not impossible for them to release the font as, you know, a typical typeface. But this is the way that Clement Cases and Base have released Base Pixel. I'm just going to scroll back up to the top. They've released it as an on-chain typeface. Which is a cool concept, I guess. It would be an easy way to track license, maybe. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not a blockchain expert, so I do think this is an interesting, an interesting typography-related piece of news. I don't think this is going to be super useful for a lot of people, but maybe it will serve as inspiration for someone to work with this concept. Like I said, some really, really cool stuff is being done with variable fonts right now, and this is one of the most fun that I've seen. So I do think that it's worthy of being included in today's brand new fonts. So if you do want to check it out, it's on clementcases.com. They're going to have links. If you want to actually purchase it, you do need to go purchase it through Coinbase Wallet. You have to buy it on the blockchain. But check it out on Clement Cases if you want to learn more about it. And I'm sure if you are more into blockchain technology than I am, you'll be able to figure this out no problem. Lastly, this wouldn't be the news without a nice puff piece to end the segment. This is a fun story that I saw pop up on my Google alerts for typography. It's not a new story, though. This has existed since basically the year 2000. So for 25 years, this debate's been going on. But the city of San Luis Obispo in California has these street signs. And you can see right here. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this for you. You can see this street sign here. This, I won't go through the entire story, but basically what happened was in the 70s, there was some kind of contest. A woman won the contest using this typeface. This typeface is called Libra. It's a typeface. Let's scroll down and see here. So it's a typeface. It's called Libra. What I found most interesting about this is that this is the type designer that created Silvertype, which is the font that Jectives uses. It's our it's the serif font that we use, not the display font. But that's what really caught my eye. So you've got this Dutch designer in 1938 that designed this Gaelic-inspired Libra font. In the 70s, a woman uses it. She wins a contest. I think that was in 72. In 75, they need a city logo. A professor at the school nearby, he says, use this font. He thought that it had like a Spanish flair to it. So you've got And here's the font right here a little bit better. So they're using this typeface, and it's just as the city logo. Then in the year 2000, they want to replace the street signs. They're using Series E typeface. They're using Highway Gothic, the same font that's on every highway in the US. But they need to replace the sign, so there's a debate. Do we use the standard highway typography, or do we go with Libra? Do we go with this Gaelic typeface that only has lowercase letters? It's only got these uncials. It's this, what you're seeing right now is what you've got. It's not a big, there's no uppercase and lowercase. There's just the one case. And the vote won 4-1. 4 people voted to use this font right here that you're looking at and put it on all the street signs. 1 person dissented. And that is the street sign that exists there. And you can see here, this was a Redditor that posted this. You can see what the font looks like on the street signs in person. But apparently this has been hotly debated. I'm not here to weigh on one way or the other. New York Times actually did a really cool video about the city. They do these, or they used to. The video's from like 9 years ago. They did a video about 36 hours in the city. So I do think the city's really unique and really cool. I've never personally been there, despite being from Las Vegas, not being horribly far away. But I've never been there, but the video's cool. I'll link it below so you can kind of get a feel for the vibe of the city. But if legibility wasn't a problem, I think this is like a fun vibe. I think the practical part of me feels that maybe going with the typical highway Gothic, it's an ISO standard for a reason, but this is what they went with, and it's debated all the time. I will point out, they budgeted, I'm not sure how much they spent, but they budgeted in the year 2000, $750,000 to replace all of the street signs. So that's the main reason why I think this hasn't been replaced. They'll replace a single street sign or two whenever they get broken. But to replace all of these street signs, 25 years later would probably cost a lot of money. So they're sticking with it for now. And that is going to do it for this edition of Objectives News. This is a new segment that I'm working out. I know there's going to be some kinks, but it's basically going to be like a midweek news. So there's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, hopefully, and then we'll do some bigger stories. I'll do some bigger stories on Fridays. So similar to the book reviews we've done, I've got some stuff about the White House. Really cool projects or really cool videos coming up, but those are the bigger videos. The more deep dives are going to be on Fridays, and then I'm hopefully going to be knocking out some new segments like this in the middle of the week. So if you like this, if you're into typography, or if you want to see more book reviews, subscribe and leave me a comment and let me know what you're most interested in. But that's the plan. So I'm Curtis Simpson. This was Objective News, and I'll see you next time.